Hey there players, Havoc here. Today we're going to be starting hopefully something that turns into a little bit of a series. But today we're doing a little bit of a coaching video, just something I wanted to throw together for a buddy of mine who is really just new to FPS. Not really gaming, but mostly just the FPS genre. They really struggle with the fundamentals of movement and that's kind of what we're going to be looking at today. So if this is something that maybe you know a friend who struggles with FPS, especially keyboard and mouse is kind of what we're playing on here. It's mostly kind of for PC. Controller works a little bit differently, but these exercises can still work. So if you know somebody, go ahead and share the video. If this is you yourself, drop a like if it's helped you out at all. If you have any questions, leave comments below. And finally, if this is something you want more of and maybe you want to kind of keep updated, hit subscribe, the bell notification icon if you want to get the notifications, and I promise down the line, if you're a little more of a veteran player and you're not really sure this is your thing, will be some more advanced stuff coming down the pipelines. This is just kind of dipping my toes into the water. So without further ado, we're gonna get right into it. Okay, so first things first, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna jump into training. Now I do have a custom game that's really good for this sort of thing, but we don't really need that. We're just going to jump straight into this training here, and just for the sake of making it easy for everyone, we don't have to load these codes in. We're just going to show you in this new training mode that they've put together. This new practice mode is actually quite good. Now you can do this with any character that well, realistically just about any character. I don't think necessarily every character, but just for the sake of this video here, we're going to go ahead, we're going to come in with Cassidy.
Someone needs to fill this saddle.
And I'm going to come down here and I'm going to go into this training room. That's not the training room. This is the training room, the firing range. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into the settings. I'm going to go ahead and do it with medium range. I don't think it super duper matters. Medium range is a good starting point though. And I'm going to put in the training bots and I'm just going to keep them stationary. Go ahead and check these two boxes here, especially that disable timer. I believe if you want to, you can set up that timer. I don't know if you can set the time, but regardless, we're gonna activate this firing range. And what we're gonna do here, we're gonna strafe, right? So this is strafing. This is A and D on your keyboard and mouse user. If you are on a controller, left and right on your movement joystick, should be relatively self-explanatory for most players. Now, what we're gonna do with this strafing is we're gonna get comfortable, right, doing the strafing motion. And you don't have to spend a lot of time on this, but basically what you want to do is you don't want your strafing to become super predictable, right? You don't want to use the same timing like this. You want to go a little bit more random with it, okay? And that's what's going to make you a hard target. It makes you unpredictable. You're strafing and changing directions at random-ish intervals. Now, like I said, you don't spend a lot of time on that. What you're going to do next is you're going to try and find the target, right? So in this case, we're trying to keep my crosshair on the eye of this bot, right? That's where we're going to try and maintain that aim. And we're just going to do this strafing motion again. And we're just going to randomize our direction, but we're going to try and keep this crosshair as close to this robot's head as we can. Try and just not move at all if we can help it. Once you're, feeling comfortable with that, I personally, at the level you're at, I would say just do this for 5 minutes. If you need to do it 5 minutes, take a break, go for it. We're going to treat this like a workout regimen, really. But I would say minimum 5, longer if you want to, or just until you feel super comfortable doing this. This is where the biggest struggle comes in. Now, this is a stationary target, right? So this is taking out one of those really complicated factors. But what we're going to do, we're not going to make this target move just yet. We're going to add in one more thing for you to concentrate on, right? Now, this is how I train my Smash players for short hop fast falls. I start them off with short hops, then we throw in a fast fall, then we throw in an attack. And we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to say shoot that target, right? We're going to say strafe and shoot. Now, in the case of Cassidy here, we're going to be one-shotting our target. Which brings us to the next point that I wanted to make for you. We're going to continue to strafe. Don't stop strafing. Just keep that strafe motion. And we're going to try and really track these targets. And we're even going to try swapping targets. Now, you can use someone probably like Soldier here. And I don't think Soldier's going to one-shot these guys in the head. And you can practice your tracking a little bit more. Cassidy is a lot more of a flick aim target. So you're going to shoot and then you're going to move targets to the next target here. So strafe, switch target. Push target.
Chew on that.
Push target.
Leave
Push
it
target.
alone.
Quadruple kill, quintuple kill, sextuple kill.
Now, why is the strafing motion important here? Well, other than making you a difficult target here, we can actually use that to kind of aim. So if we shoot and we switch target, right, all we have to do is flick close, and once we kind of have, so we're gonna stop strafing it. So if we flick to our next target here, we're not gonna quite get that perfect, right? So it's gonna take us a little bit of practice here to get that flick to be accurate. But what we can do is we can get close and we can strafe into it, right?
Dead to rights.
So I can get it a little bit of a shorter of a distance here. As you can see, if I shoot and flick to about here, I can just strafe into the shot without having to really move my crosshair.
Out here.
Just a little bit of a tip. The strafing, so when you aim, you're not only aiming with your mouse, right? Or joystick if you're a controller user, but you're also going to want to aim with your strafe. And that is what's going to improve your aim probably the most, because you don't really do that a lot. Like I said, you don't move and aim at the same time. If you actually use them at the same time and you get good at making those movements fluid, you're going to be able to strafe into shots, and you're just going to be hitting a lot more things. Now we're going to go ahead and hit the reset here. This is where we're going to make it a little more difficult for ourselves, okay? Now, if you want to start off gradual, start horizontal, right? And your targets, all they're going to do is they're just going to move horizontally like this. It's a little bit random, but we're going to, practice our strafing and tracking first, and then we'll practice shooting
Well, there's
and switching targets.
Double kill.
So that's what is going to be a good place for you to start with that. Now, when you get a little bit more comfortable with that and you're finding that these exercises are too easy, we can switch to the more random player movement, because what these are going to do is these are going to jump around and make it a little bit more difficult. It's going to be random how high they go, random how they arc. They're even going to increase and decrease in distance from you. And this is going to be a little bit more accurate to player movement. And then we can try shooting these targets, right? And as you see, even for me, this one is going to be a good way to aim, especially trying to hit the headshots. Now, I will say there's a lot more advanced aiming tips that will probably come out in the future, but I'm not really going to throw out there right now. As you can see, I'm a bit rusty. I need to hit the practice range myself.
clean sweep.
But this is going to be a very good way for you to practice your strafing, aiming, and even shooting, switching targets as well, which is something you definitely want to be able to do no matter who you're playing. So that being said, we are going to go ahead and move on to a few more character specific tips for you. Okay, so as you can see, I went ahead and swapped over to Orisa, and this is just going to be a very I'm not going to do a huge So as you can see, I have swapped over to Orisa here. I'm just going to go ahead and run through some basic fundamental tips on how to play this character. Initially, I had planned on going into great depth on how the numbers for this character are and just completely nerding out about the stats. I'm not going to do that. I think that's going to be information overload. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to tell you how to play this character. The why we play this character this way is in those stats and those numbers. That's not important. Not 100% important. What's important is that you understand how to play this character. So, Fusion Driver, which is this primary fire here. The most basic thing I can explain to you, you have infinite ammo, but instead you have a resource meter. This resource meter is going to heat your gun up, and then when it overheats, it has to cool down. If you overheat it entirely, you will not be able to shoot until it is completely cooled down. It takes less time for it to completely cool down from full overheat than it does for you to do it partially. It will take more time for it to completely cool down. However, you will be able to immediately shoot, which means you can stutter your shots here a little bit and just prevent yourself from going through that huge reload animation, meaning you have a little more uptime on your shots. The range for this is going to be right about its medium range. Between 20 and 30 meters is where your fall off range starts. So 20 meters, you're doing full damage. When you go to 30 meters, that's going to be the maximum fall off for your gun. As you can see, that little bit of health took a little bit more. We'll let him respawn, and I'll show you again. You do not do as much damage. Now, from this point on, no matter how far back you go, your damage is going to be at its minimum. So from here and back is the same damage, and this is your maximum damage from here up. In between here, it's a little bit of a ramp. The farther back you get, the less damage you do. So this is really your optimal range right about here. As Orisa, you're kind of a bully character. You're going to be in their face a lot. How are you going to do that? Well, you have two abilities that are going to be really important for you to be able to get up in their face. The first one is going to be your E. Your spin is going to give you a little bit of a speed boost, which means you're going to be able to get into their face. And while it's spinning, it also is going to be blocking projectiles. Now, it's not going to block beams. It's not going to block throwables like turrets or Baptiste Frisbee, but it is going to get you up to them, and you're going to take less damage doing so because you will be absorbing majority of those projectiles. You can absorb certain projectiles like ultimate projectiles, such as I believe, I don't know about Alari's. I'm gonna have to test some more with Alari, so excuse my ignorance with Alari, anything with Alari's kit, but you are going to be able to block things like gravity. You're going to be from Zarya, that is. I think you're going to be able to block Snowball because that counts as projectile. You can block Hanzo arrow if you hit the actual arrow, not the dragon, but the arrow that spawns the dragon. Things like that. The other ability is going to be your shift ability. Now, you're not getting a speed buff on this. I believe it used to make it to where you weren't slow in shooting, but I think they removed her slowdown while shooting for Overwatch 2 anyways. But what it is going to do is it's going to prevent you from being stunned, CC'd of any type. So you'll be able to walk on a Graviton, you'll be able to break Junkrat traps, you won't get stunned by an enemy Orisa throwing a javelin at you, all those sort of things. This ability breaks any kind of CC. The only thing that can actually hit you is if Sombra hacks you. Keep in mind, you can still be hacked. It's not going to take away your Fortify if you get hacked, but everything else will be taken away for a short period of time. The other thing is you turn off your head hitbox, so you won't be taking headshots, which is really nice. And to top all that off, you're going to only receive 50% of any damage. So if Widowmaker shoots you for 120 damage, you're only going to take 60 damage instead. The other thing too, if you look at the health bar in the bottom left, you will see you actually receive quite a bit of bonus health too. That bonus health goes away immediately when your ability is done, so make sure you play around it. Use it while you have it, but don't throw yourself into a situation you're not going to be able to get out of. Your supports can only do so much to keep you alive. Now, the other thing here is going to be the javelin throw, which for me is right click. That is going to be your secondary ability. As you can see, it does quite a bit of damage. Does 60 on impact, and it can hit them, it knocks them back a little bit. If they hit a wall, it does an extra 40 damage for a total of 100 damage. It also does a little bit of a micro stun when you hit them with it, and if they hit the wall, it extends that stun duration just a little bit longer. It'll be total around half a second if you hit them under the wall. That can stop thing like Cassidy ultimate because he's channeling it. Anything really that channels it can stop. And speaking of channels, we're going to move on to the Orisa ultimate. As you know, is the big pull. You're going to be able to charge it up to 500%, and then it releases on its own. You can release that early. Each percent you go up is about how much damage it's going to do. It tops out at 500 damage. So if you want to do, I know if you want to do 200 damage, it's about 160% charge. If you want to make sure that you're killing the squishies, you're going to want to release that about 200%, 250%. That'll kill just about every squishy in the game, which is where you're primarily targeting with that. You're not really targeting the tank as much. If you catch the tank in it, you're not trying to kill them. But really what you're wanting to do is you're just wanting to use that move until the people trying to run out of it get to the edge of its range, and then you go ahead and release it. Now, while you are using ultimate there, you can see you get that bonus health and you get that golden color. That is because you get a free fortitude while using that move. So you can even walk in with a fortitude, come on in, pop it, extend your fortitude even longer, release it, and you have effectively become a menace to society. So keep in mind that while you're channeling this, no CC can hit you, headshot can hit you, you're going to take 50% less damage, you get that bonus health. However, because it's a channel and you still can get hacked by Sombra, that is the one thing that is going to be able to stop your ultimate, is if you get hacked by Sombra. So if they have a Sombra on the enemy team, that is a little bit of a counter to your character. Just make sure that you're aware of where she's at before using ultimate, and you don't want to get EMP'd either, because EMP, it works the same as hack, it will stop it. Now that is the most basic way I can explain Orisa. During normal gameplay, what you're basically going to be doing as a tank, you are creating space, holding space, or giving space. That is your decision, but you are taking the command there on the space. So what you're going to be doing, you're going to be playing corners here, and you're going to be trying to hit these headshots here with your bullets. And if you see an advantage, you're going to press that advantage, you're going to push in, you're going to use your javelin to stun, you're going to use your fortify to prevent CC. If you're going against a Doomfist, you're just going to bully him. But basically, you're in charge of where space is being controlled, if you're taking it or if you're holding it. So that's really up to you. And that just goes for a tank in general. Now, the other two that you played was Winston and Hammond. I'm going to run through Winston. Winston's super simple. Now, the one thing I noticed is you didn't seem to understand there is a limit to the range on Winston. So as you can see, as I move farther back, he's going to start taking damage. And that is right about that 10 meter. That's kind of where that damage is. I believe it's actually technically 11. Doesn't matter, though. That is your range. You're going to be pretty close using this, okay? Winston is a very close range character. Now, because his damage ticks so slowly, a little bit of a tip is you can melee to finish people off for that extra 40 damage at the end, and that's just a little burst to end their health bar. I wouldn't really spam melee while shooting. You really just want to hit them right at the end. The other thing is, if you charge your right click, you can actually do 50 damage on a full charge. Now, the charge will last a little bit longer than it takes to fully charge it, about twice as long, but it does eventually release on its own, so you can't just hold that charge there. Keep in mind, while you're charging, it does actually take your ammo away too. So if you cancel that with a left click, it does take that ammo still. Or if you cancel the melee, it's still going to take that ammo. The other thing is you're going to want to jump in a lot. Your jump, when you land on them, knocks back and does a little bit of damage. And then you can melee just before you land. Hopefully not off the map, but you can melee just before you land to kind of get that extra bit of damage in, and the landing animation will cancel your melee, meaning if you time it right, you get that extra chunk of damage out basically for free. And if you want a pro tip here on a good combo with Winston, you can charge, jump, release it, and then melee right before you land. Try that again. And you can see that's a lot of burst damage that you can do. Now on the page with his jump, it is similar to Torbjorn's turret, like I told you before, where you can arc to actually go at different angles. If you want to get the shortest angle possible, horizontal and down are the same. So if you're aiming perfectly horizontal, if you hold back like you're going to walk back, hold it and then jump, that is going to be the shortest range jump you can do. You do have to hold back in order to get that short range jump, and it's just going to give you that little bit of a bounce. The other thing too is about a 45-ish degree angle here is going to be your maximum range jump. And then if you want to, you can look straight up and get almost a entirely vertical jump. And then the biggest thing here for his barrier, it's pretty simple. It's just a barrier, right? Big circular barrier. It has 650 health. It'll be up for I believe it's like 8 seconds, and then you have a 4-second cooldown after it goes up. The cooldown starts immediately after you press E, so whether that breaks early or not, that cooldown's going to be the same. But if it doesn't break, it's 8 seconds of uptime, and then you have 4-second downtime. So you can have that barrier up almost all the time. One thing to note, if you jump and place it, wherever you press the button to activate it, it will drop straight down. It does not carry momentum with you. So if you want to be in that bubble, you have to make sure that you do it right before you're going to land, because it just comes straight down. If you do it too early, you're going to end up outside the shield, and you could be in a world of hurt. So just remember that. That's something I see all the time happen. For your ultimate, basically what your ultimate's going to do, it's going to put you back to full health, and it's going to give you extra health. You're going to be at 900 health. You're going to have a ton of armor as well. It's also going to reset your jump. So I'm going to show you that little trick here. So if you jump in, Q, you can jump again immediately. It also gives you like a 2-second cooldown on your jump, so you can just jump like crazy with it. But just a little bit of a trick with that. Since it resets your health, generally what it's used for the most is for you to overcommit. You come in and you're doing a ton, right? And you take a ton of damage, and then you go ahead and you can pop your ultimate and continue to swing on them rather than jumping out. So just keep that in mind. That's kind of what you're doing with Primal Rage. Primal Rage is not really a super broken ability. It doesn't really do a whole lot. It's really good for disrupting and just kind of getting people out of position. If you trap someone into a wall, you can continually hit them into the wall until they die, which is funny because you're just doing melee damage, and they can't really do much about it. You can't deploy shield while you're in Primal Rage. All you can pretty much do is jump and melee. If you get an Ana boost, just a little bit of a Winston tip here. If you get nano boosted by Ana, do not use your ultimate because you will always do more damage. And actually, as you can see here, I forgot to go over, your Tesla cannon will hit multiple targets at a time. That's why when you get Ana boosted, you want to stay in your regular form here. You want to be able to hit multiple targets with that damage boosted beam, because it's just going to shred people like crazy. It'll go through Reinhardt barriers. It doesn't go through Zarya bubble. Zarya bubble will absorb it, but that is the only thing that will absorb it. It'll go through any other barrier in the game. I believe, and it's actually a beam attack as well. It will even go through defense matrix on D.Va. It'll go through the damage absorb, I forget what that ability is called, on Sigma as well. So it's a pretty good ability, nano boosted. Otherwise, it's just chip damage, and you're basically just not having to aim, which is nice. You can look wherever you want. As long as you're kind of on your screen, you'll be able to do enough damage to just tickle them, basically. Tickle cannon. Fun fact, if they're being pocket healed by Mercy, it is probably not worth targeting them because Mercy can heal the exact amount of damage you do per second, which means you will effectively not be doing any damage. Next up is Hammond. Hammond is a little bit more complicated. I don't recommend him for beginner players. I actually don't really recommend you play him at all. I would recommend if you want a mobile character that has a lot of in and out that can bully, play D.Va. D.Va is a lot more simple. However, because you played Hammond, I'm going to go over it. So you can see this little counter here that's popping up on my screen tells me how many enemies are around me. Now it maxes out at 5, but basically what that does is when you press E, you're going to get bonus health. As you can see, that green in the bottom left, that is my bonus health. It lasts for a little bit here. I think it was about 8 seconds or 7 seconds or so, and then it pops away. And you get 100 and you get 100 just for using it with nobody around. As you can see here, I've got an extra 100, and then the more people you have around, for each person it's an extra 100, so you can top out at 600 health, which is a crazy amount to have just for that bonus health. Your right click here is going to be this grapple hook. You're going to be able to grapple hook onto any surface, even deployables like walls, like the May wall, the elevator from Lifeweaver, stuff like that. You can grapple onto those as well. But basically, that is going to boost your movement up. If you, when you're in ball form here, you have full rotation, 360 control of your character. What this is going to do, it's going to grapple you onto a point, and it's just physics from there. There's really not much more explaining it than you're just going to have to understand how physics works. Now, the farther you move in this mode, you do pick up speed. When you get this fireball, you're going to be able to hit things, and you're going to be able to do damage when you hit them. That is going to be a good amount of damage. It's also going to knock people back. You can knock people off ledges with it if you're clever enough and you've got good positioning. Which is what really makes this character difficult for most people, is the angles that you have to take for that sort of thing. When you're in the air, there you go, there's that damage. When you're in the air, you can press the crouch button, which for me is C. Some people have it on control. But basically, you're going to come up, you're going to press C. It's going to knock them up, and they're going to be vulnerable for a little bit there. They're also going to take a lot of damage from it. It's 100 damage if you hit them right in the center. It goes all the way to, I think it goes to like 1 damage if they're at the edge. It still knocks them up. When you knock them up with that, usually what I do, and what I see most other ball players do, is you just look up and you start shooting them. Try to hit the headshots if you can. You can actually do quite a lot of damage with Hammond. It just is difficult to aim because he does get a little bit of a spread here. And you can see on my crosshair, I have it turned on to show me my exact accuracy. So you can see just how much that increases. It's not a lot, but it's enough that you want to be close range. He also has quite a bit of damage fall off. So I can actually show you that over here. If I'm all the way See, I think it's even at 25 meters is about where his damage fall off is maximized. You can see how little damage this is actually doing, not just because of the spread, but even just individual bullets aren't doing very much. Whereas if I get a little bit closer here and let him respawn, we'll see the damage actually increases quite a lot and you do a lot more damage. So fall off is very important, and he's very much so a close range character. Mostly how you're going to be playing is you're going to come in, you're going to pile drive, you're going to do this, you're going to get out. And then you're basically just going to pop that E ability whenever you're kind of, if you want to go like in the middle of a large group of them, you can jump in, pop E, shoot quite a bit, do a lot of damage, and then you should be able to get out. Your grappling hook will be up in time for you to get out before your shields even go away. Now for his ultimate, the higher you are, the more spread out the area his mines are going to be, and I can kind of demonstrate that to you here. So if you come in, you pile drive, and you throw it out, you can see the area here is not super big. Like, it's a good area, but and the mines are really close together, so that's going to be a lot of damage there. And that is how most people will use Hammond's ultimate. They'll pile drive in, knock people up, and then throw the ultimate out, because they can't really escape the field, that the minefield, in time for them to actually activate if they're knocked up in the air and they don't have air control. Most people can walk out of it if they're not knocked up. And I'll show you what it looks like if you're all the way up in the air and we pop it. Now you can see just how far apart these mines are. It's actually the point where you can almost walk between them, really, and not take any damage from them. But it does cover a bigger area. So if it's an area like this where there's not a lot of ways to really move around them too much, like if you have like these pillars here, like this is just a very tight spot. If you have a lot of tight areas like this, it might be worth popping it up in the air. And, you know, maybe they'll run into one. For one, you'll definitely cover a bigger spot. It's just at the risk of not hitting as many mines on people. It's like area denial versus targeting, like specifically targeted individuals and trying to take a specific person out. That's basically all I've got on Wrecking Ball. He's not like got a lot to him. It's just that his abilities are complicated to use on their own, and then knowing how to combo them and when to go in and out is what makes him really difficult to play. Your team really has to play around you if you're Hammond, because you don't have much of a frontline tank. You're really just trying to harass people, but you want to harass them enough to where they have to worry about you. A lot of people, they just take it and harass you, run away, but you're not really doing much other than that, and then the rest of the team has to pick up that slack. You want to still be doing something. You're trying to build ult charge, deny the area, and do a lot of damage. That's how you be annoying with that character. But anyways, with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and conclude up this video here for you. So yeah, I hope these tips were helpful. And there you have it. So that's basically the tips that I would give you. Hopefully you've learned something from these, from like the hero tips that I've given you. I can go over some map tips later on if you want to, so just let me know. I'll probably release, I want to do a video for each map, because I think in order to do it proper justice, I would need its own video for it. But the hero tips hopefully were helpful for you, and then that exercise is going to be vital. I think that exercise you need to do that exercise every day. 20-25 minutes a day is all it's really going to take if you do the 5-minute intervals like I said. And if you do that every day, I think it's going to be you'll notice the improvement will be very it'll be very short in the amount of time it takes you to improve. And I know I've pointed this out to you before, where you aim down at your feet quite a lot. I've noticed when you're around enemies and you are aiming, you have learned to pop your aim up quite a bit. However, when walking around, you still look at the ground, and that is not optimal, because you want to reduce the amount of time it takes you to get your crosshair to their head. And if you're looking down, that's just split seconds. It's going to take you longer, and it's just going to make it that much harder for you to aim. You're not going to be able to strafe into a headshot like I was showing you. So if you do these exercises, I'm hoping it breaks that habit as well. But anyways, if you guys enjoyed watching this video, I really hope that you drop a like on the video. Let me know if you like my coaching style and you want to see more of these videos, and as we get into more advanced stuff, I would really appreciate a subscribe as well. If not, totally cool if you just rip this video, throw it in a playlist, and give it to some noob who really needs the help. But without further ado, that is all we've got today. So I hope you guys enjoy playing your video games, and I'll always be around to do my best no matter what the game is, to just give give my best tips and tricks that I've picked up over the years that I've been playing. So, till next time, game on.